To unpack this for us a bit more further, we're now joined by former IEC Deputy Chair and Election Specialist Terry Tselane, and he joins us via our video link. Terry, thank you so much for joining us here on SABC News. Of course, we saw that launch being conducted by the IEC. Just tells us that we are edging closer to the much anticipated 2024 elections.
Good evening to you and to your viewers. Of course, you're correct. Today's launch basically illustrates that the process of preparations for the elections have started, and that all the political parties and everybody now will be focusing on making sure that there is greater participation in this process.
Exactly. And of course, coming to that number of participation, there's at least 26 million eligible voters in South Africa. In the previous elections, we only saw 12 million of those going to the polls. Do you think that this time around, South Africans, will see it necessary to cast their ballot?
Well, in terms of the total number of people registered for the elections, I think the number is still the same as during the time when we had the last elections. The last elections, we had about 26 million people registered, and then we still have the same number of people. Obviously, some people have got to be removed from the voters' roll as a result of either death or for whatever reasons. So we are very hopeful that the level of interest that has been ignited by the process would actually ensure that there's a greater participation of people in the elections. And I think these elections are particularly important because firstly we'll be having the independents, or those individuals who will be participating in the elections as individuals other than through membership of political party. And that is important because in the past, this was only applicable at the local level in the wards. Now, the Constitutional Court has ruled that those individuals must be included at both provincial and national level. So we'll see how that actually begins to affect the political landscape. But also, if you look at the trends from 2016 to now, increasingly we're beginning to see that there is no one political party that is dominant. And this has given hope to many political parties that there is a possibility that they could be part of government at a national level as well as provincial level through coalition arrangement. And this is what adds another significance in the 2024 elections.
And Terry, when it comes to dealing with elections, we're now hearing that voters in South Africa will move from having 2 ballot papers to now 3. How will that work? Why do we have this new paper? This is the regional ballot, which we'll see. It's no longer just national and provincial, and now we'll have a 3rd ballot to cast. How will that work for these elections to accommodate the independent candidates?
Yeah, but remember that, as I indicated earlier on, that in the previous elections, a voter would actually receive 2 ballots, which ballots would be for provincial and for national elections. This time, because the Constitutional Court has ruled that the Electoral Commission must include those who are participating other than through membership of a political party, it means that those who therefore have to be accommodated in a ballot paper. So the ballot paper will therefore have to be structured that it gives an expression to that arrangement. And that's why you then, instead of actually having 2 ballots, you'd have 3 ballots that would actually be accommodating that arrangement.
And when it comes to, many concerns by South Africans, I mean, we keep on seeing new political parties coming forward and registering with the IEC, and now we have independent candidates. Are you concerned in terms of what the ballot paper will look like for 2024? I mean, many South Africans are asking themselves, how will the IEC maneuver around, a much longer ballot paper?
Well, there are two aspects that have been put in place basically to obviate that kind of a problem. One is that the amount of money that the political parties and individuals participating in the elections would have to pay as a deposit to participate in the elections has actually been increased. So that would ensure that those who are not really serious players do not participate in the elections. And secondly, the number of signatures that are required for an individual and for political parties to be able to participate in the elections has also been increased. Of course, some of us think that the number is a little bit more cumbersome, especially for individuals who are participating for the first time. But that is besides the point. The truth of the matter is that that is one of the checks and balances that is actually made to ensure that you only have serious players participating in the electoral process. So those two mechanisms, firstly, the number of signatures required, and secondly, the deposit that has got to be paid to participate in the elections would obviate a situation where you have, people who are not really serious players participating in the elections, and that would actually make the ballot paper not to be onerous and unmanageable.
And when it comes to, this new process of voting and to incorporate, independent candidates, how important will voter education be during this time when we hold elections, especially for those voting for the first time?
It is so critical. Voter education is so important. And then, we've got also to move from a position where voter education focuses on where a person has got to put an X in a ballot paper. We've got to begin to empower people to be able to have their own agency in the electoral processes. So voter education is critical in all this arrangement. But I think it's also become critical because what we have seen since 2016, it's an arrangement where there is no dominant political party. And therefore, even if political parties are coming in with their manifestos, then there is no one political party that is dominant. It means they've got to enter into a coalition arrangement. So voter education and civic education must begin to address that particular aspect so that people understand, the electorate understand, and those who are supporting different political parties, that even though you have supported a particular political party, it does not mean that once that political party gets into power, it will implement its manifesto. It is part of, negotiation. Is going to be part of the negotiations between different political parties, and ultimately what will emerge will be a contract based on what those agreements will entail. And therefore, the electorate has got to be educated about that as well.
And very important, and lastly, during the previous elections, the country often struggles with young people and getting them to vote. This time around, how does the IEC ensure that it is and it directly speaks to young South Africans to go out and vote in their numbers?
Well, the Commission has got to reach the electorate in platforms where they reside. The social media therefore becomes a critical platform that has got to be used in order to be able to reach young people, because young people do not, attend big political rallies. They are not available for those. Therefore, if you want to communicate with them, it means you must communicate with them in platforms where they are active. And social media, therefore, becomes a critical aspect. But the second aspect is obviously that of having to introduce electronic mechanism so that people can be able to participate wherever they are in the electoral processes.
Mr. Tselane, thank you so much for your time here on the Late Edition. Always a pleasure speaking to you. That is Terry Tselane, former IEC official, as well as elections analyst, giving us his insight as the IEC has officially launched its elections drive.